yeah, Wolfgang was the fans' fan. He was such an amazing guy. I met him a couple of times. He was always so warm and friendly and no airs and graces. I mean, I first met him at the 007 in concert, Sounds of 007 at the Albert Hall for the sixth anniversary birthday. And he was just, oh, we've been in touch, emailing and commenting each other's posts, but never actually met. And we big hugs, and he was so lovely. And then I was went to the HMS Belfast 007GB fan club meet later on that year. Oh no, last year. And my regular cameraman Gav unfortunately couldn't make it, so I was without a cameraman. So I put the word out, and Wolfgang immediately stepped up and said, "Look, I'll do it, no problem at all." And we met up, and he just grabbed the camera, and he was such a star. No kind of like I say, no airs and graces, no quibbles. I didn't even know he was the vice president of the German fan club at that time, but he was just so lovely, so wonderful. It was such a shock. But the outpouring of love for the guy, and the way he's been remembered, and the stories that come out about what he's what a great guy he was. It's a testament to how much he was loved by the community, and obviously his friends and family back home near Frankfurt. So there's a massive hole in the Bond community that's been left by Wolfgang. So I'm sure he's looking down now, and he'll have his own ideas about the Battle of the Gilberts we're having this evening, Brian.
And it's gonna go definitely the You Only Live Twice. So, Wolfgang, wherever you may be, look down on me and say, You Only Live Twice is the better one. This is the big one, 007, the Battle of the Gilberts. You Only Live Twice versus The Spy Who Loved Me. Why are we discussing these two? Well, they are both directed by Lewis Gilbert, and both have some similar plot points and elements. For this episode, let's welcome back the bon vivant himself, Mr. Blair Ballard.
No, Brian, thanks. We had such fun last time. I'm really glad you invited me back. Now, obviously, I'm a big fan of. I mean, can you guess? I'm sort of slightly giving it away with what I'm wearing today. But I'm a huge fan of The Spy Who Loved Me. It was the first Bond film I saw in the cinema. I saw a program on TV called Clapperboard for kids, and they were doing an on-set kind of behind the scenes kind of piece about The Spy Who Loved Me, and on the Paris when Roger Moore escapes and harpoons those two guys, and they were filming that scene, and I thought it was just absolutely incredible. So I got my parents to drive into the cinema, so it got a real special place in my heart. But You Only Live Twice is an epic film. I mean, it ticks all the boxes. Both of them are big, bombastic films with huge action sequences, massive sets. Ken Adam doing us proud. So it's gonna be a tricky one. This one. I mean, I love them both. A bit like a bit like why do Chinese girls taste different from to other girls? I mean, I love them both. So it's gonna be a tricky one. So let's see what happens.
And I've always defended You Only Live Twice. When I've talked with many people in the community, I always say I love You Only Live Twice better than The Spy Who Loved Me.
Ooh.
And we will find out why, during this episode. But I know you're such a big fan of The Spy Who Loved Me. You grew up on this film. So I thought you would be the perfect defender of The Spy Who Loved Me. Against me, here's this big fan that's been defending, You Only Live Twice for years. We've also seen other people, let's defend, the Daniel Craig era. It's time to move on and actually do the classics. Come on now. So here I am wanting to defend these two because these are, some of the, one is considered A, the most controversial. B, the other one is actually considered, it's one of the greatest James Bond films of all time. Before we kick off, Blair will be defending The Spy Who Loved Me, and I will be, of course, defending You Only Live Twice in this discussion. So with further ado, why don't we get into it? And the first topic of tonight is Japan versus Egypt. Blair, take it away.
Well, I do love the fact that The Spy Who Loved Me is globetrotting, and we've got lots of different locations. But if we're sticking to Egypt versus Japan, well, Egypt, obviously, all Bonds are on a grand scale, and the pyramids, you can't get bigger than that, really. So it was an epic location for Eon to pick. I think the producers really played to the strengths of both locations. Really, we see the awe-inspiring pyramids at Giza. Well, they're actually, they weren't the real pyramids at the time, but also the antiquity, the ruins, obviously at Karnak. Amazing scene when Roger Moore and Barbara Bach are kind of looking for Jaws, and he's up above them and lobbing huge big rocks at them. I mean, it's just absolutely awe-inspiring. So you can see why they picked it. There was actually going to be a fight a fight sequence in the sort of mummy room at the Cairo Museum of Antiquities, but it was scrapped. But the sequence actually resurfaced in Moonraker. They used it for the fight between Chang and Bond in the Bernini Museum, the glass showroom, and of course Lois Charles was originally going to play Anya Amasova in The Spy Who Loved Me, but I digress. I mean, but Egypt we have the splendor of the River Nile. You've got some epic desert scenes. I love the fact they used, the David Lean music from lots of variety. I think it's great. I think also they actually they kind of echoed it later on in Quantum of Solace, that scene in Chile when they're walking in the desert, him in his black Tom Ford suit, and she's wearing the dinner dress as well. So I think they kind of paid homage to that in Quantum of Solace. But I think having the whole film set in Egypt might have been a bit of a stretch. I mean, obviously Japan has got this amazing kind of sort of juxtaposition of the blend of old tradition with the kind of the castles and the beautiful gardens, epic landscapes with the volcanoes as well. And then you've got sort of the ultra modern Tokyo as well. So you've got plenty of scope to keep all the action in the land of the rising sun. But I don't know if it would have The Spy Who Loved Me would have been as great a film if they kept out all the action just in Egypt. But I think Eon had to go big or go bust, because it was like they lost Harry Saltzman as part of the production team. He'd sold his shares, and so it was all resting on Cubby Broccoli's shoulders. So he threw a lot of money and a lot of sort of writing talent at the script and the production of the film. So I can see if we're going to just be Egypt against Japan, I think you probably got this round. I think.
That's tough to say. I'm going to tell you on that. I think, if you really think about it, Japan is a great location, and You Only Live Twice. The book solely focuses on Japan as well. I think if it had certain globe-trotting, locations like The Spy Who Loved Me did, it may go down as one of Sean's best. It may be up there with From Russia with Love. It may be up there with Goldfinger. But here's where it does get tricky. Yes, You Only Live Twice is solely in Japan. I understand again, like I said, the globetrotting experience. People absolutely want that in Bond films. Some people want him solely based in one location, like Japan. Again, I personally wanted him, one location, and especially after, Live and Let Die, he had bounced from, New York, or I should go back, London, from his apartment to New York to San Monique, the fictional island, back to New Orleans, back to San Monique. I think that was way too much, and especially at that time. Here we are, 10 years later, between You Only Live Twice and The Spy Who Loved Me. Here he is doing it again. He's just frolicking around, globetrotting, and it's like, what if Bond was one location? Would this film even, come up to comparison with, You Only Live Twice? In a sense, it's the same exact film. And I'm going to get to that point later. It really is. Like, you see a lot of the Lewis Gilbert directed films, and, they're written by two different people. Christopher Wood wrote, The Spy Who Loved Me. Dick Maybaum wrote Yolt. But they have so many similar plots. It's not even funny. Like, and I think you can realize that as well. So honestly, I'm going You Only Live Twice still.
Sure. I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, I think, Japan is, I mean, and also for audiences in the 60s, it's something that, it would have been really exotic. I mean, Japan, was only, it was, 20 years after the war, but it was still kind of a mystery, really, for most Western audiences. So it was really exotic location. And it had this dichotomy. You have the old and the new. Whereas Egypt really just is largely, especially in the 70s, still quite a. I mean, it was known for its antiquity, for its, and the splendor of pyramids and the pharaohs and so on, in ancient Egypt. But I don't think that the Nile was very beautifully shot as well, obviously. And I love this kind of the scenes that, when he gets off the boat and Anya's sort of left, and he's walking through, and you see all the kind of like the old women sort of laughing, and it's really beautifully shot. But I don't think there's enough of Egypt left to explore. We have some nice scenes where when Roger Moore goes down and meets Moneypenny, and then obviously General Gogol's there, and Anya Amasa as well. The way they've incorporated MQ's lab into the actual antiquity, but I wouldn't say a one-trick pony yet, because it's absolutely beautiful to look at, but I don't think it could have carried a whole film. I don't think. Anyway, that's just my two cents.
You can let the fans decide on this, who wins, because right now I'm thinking it sounds like a push to me. You made another great point. Like that scene when we see Moneypenny, General Gogol, Triple X, then M just walks up and they say, "Oh, we're pretty much coming together." Then they walk through Q's lab, and then they sit down and discuss what the exact mission of the film is. I think that is probably one of the most chilling, like legitimately bone chilling scenes of the beloved franchise of all 25 films, just because it's the first time that the English and the Russians had came together and fully worked together. So I'm gonna let the fans decide. I don't think I have anything else really to say on this.
Let's see. Go Spy Love Me. Go Cairo. Go Cairo.
Oh, grow up, 007.
But yeah, but as I say, I mean, I think overall, I do love the globetrotting element of the Spy Love Me. But if we ask narrowing it down to Cairo versus Japan, well, let's see what the fans say in the comments below.
Absolutely, 100%, Blair. I agree. Next, we're moving on to layers, and that is the Volcano versus Atlantis. Here's where I think things are going to get interesting, Blair. As longtime Bond fans, it still bugs me how much Blofeld's Volcano isn't believable by any means. Despite that, he was still able to fool the Americans, the UK, and the USSR. A rocket was launched out of a volcano in Japan, of all places. But in The Spy Who Loved Me, here's Stromberg having his henchmen on board the Lapyrus control the tanker and swallow submarines. At least Blofeld was controlling everything and everybody in the volcano.
But I mean, Stromberg's goons get to wear those epic salmon uniforms. I really always wanted to have one of those, and I keep trying to bid on them in auctions, but the prices are always too high. I mean, but you have to say both sets, the Lapyrus set. I think we should try and include the Lapyrus as well as Atlantis. I mean, Lapyrus obviously is where the action happens, the big battle at the end. But both sets, Ken Adam, are utter legends. I mean, both sets are incredible. Spending $1 million on the You Only Live Twice Volcano set. I mean, Cubby Broccoli wanted the money on screen, and you see it there. I mean, it's absolutely epic. I think it's one of the best sets ever created, especially back in the 1960s. $1 million got you a lot. It was a lot of money in those days, but even Adam said that it was a bit of a wasteful set because it couldn't be reused. Where it should, why the Lapyrus was so important, because it gave us the 007 as its legacy. So I mean, it was so big that the cinematographer, Claude Renoir, couldn't actually, his eyesight was failing at the time. He couldn't see the end of the set. So they snuck in, Cat Adams' friend, Stanley Kubrick, to help out. Obviously, on the condition that he was kept, completely secret, that it was kept completely secret he was actually involved. But they've both got monorails, which I love. I mean, the scale, it's what we really want from a Bond film. I mean, something we haven't really had with the Craig films, I don't think. I mean, Inspector, when he escapes from Blofeld's Moroccan base, it's just too bloody easy. He's just going blink, 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 one shot for all these guys miles away with his rifle. Even the most, the biggest, largest explosion in moviedom at the time seems a bit underwhelming, really. It's just they can't do epic scale, I think, but like they did in the Lewis Gilbert era. Massive sets, lots of explosions, lots of extras. I mean, the Ninja Assault is just so fun and such a romp. I mean, when Connery discovers the volcano with Kissy, I don't understand this. I don't understand why he's wearing his fisherman's disguise, but then underneath he's got his grey ninja suit with the balaclava, and he's got his suction cups. Where did he hide all these things? I don't understand, Brian. I don't know where he kept them. I mean, I was lucky enough to one of my videos with a donkey's collection of guns to actually hold one of the rocket guns from You Only Live Twice. Amazing. They got these squibs so they would fire. You can see when the guy's firing the rocket, it's actually flinching a bit because it's a little mini explosion. It was, seriously. But I mean, obviously the dialogue is a bit dated. I mean, when Sean Connery's going, got it up there to the control room, it's got the exploder button.
There's an exploder button up in the control room. We've got to get up there.
Impossible, too well defended.
Bless him. I mean, the script is a bit clunky. But I think when you're comparing these two layers, I think you've got to compare the volcano layer with both Atlantis and the La Paris. And obviously, Blofeld's layer's got the piranha pool, whereas Stromberg's has got the shark tank. Both say that now you must pay the penalty as well, which I think, obviously, we'll talk about similarities very soon. But I also think that Atlantis, when it's surfacing, echoes in the volcano reveal, but also, funny enough, it reminds me of the GoldenEye satellite. When the actual Arecibo is actually the Arecibo satellite, isn't it? But the water recedes, and you see kind of that sloshing around of water. It reminds me of Atlantis surfacing. But if push comes to shove, I'm going to have to give it to You. You Only Live Twice. It's probably the more impressive in scale. I mean, they got landed a rocket in there and a helicopter. So I think that I'm more impressed than you are with the set, because I think it is amazing. But obviously $1 million in 1967, the 007 stage for the La Paris was $1 million as well. So I think they got more bang for their buck in 1967 with $1 million went a long way in those days. So I think for me, I love them both. But I think the You Only Live Twice set is probably the greater achievement and the biggest spectacle, I think, as well.
Here's where I'm already trying to hold in my laughter at all means. You had kicked this off by saying you've been bidding for one of the salmon-colored suits.
I know it's not very fashion forward, really. And I probably wouldn't be able to wear it outside. I get lynched probably. But I think that it was just it just lodged in my brain. I mean, probably not the captain's suit. I think with the big collars coming out and the guy with the cap as well, it's a bit too much. But maybe one of the kind of like just the normal goons, one of their kind of jumpsuits would have been okay.
Again, you said you wanted one of the salmon-colored suits.
Yeah,
I could see Rachel right now legitimately laughing at you, being like, You're legitimately wearing that for one of your videos. And the fact that you're wearing it now for recording with one of your mates in the United States.
I know. She would, I think she'd disown me, actually. I'd be sleeping on the sofa.
Exactly. And that's where I was going, like, I think you pushed it a little too far right there. But, it's funny, that they were able to get Stanley Kubrick, of all people, to come on board. And, he denied being on set at all times. Like, it's amazing. It never leaked until later on in life. it was always downplayed that he was on set, and he would always tell everybody, I was never on set of The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah, I know, but it's, I mean, you can see the actual scale, and the lighting is absolutely perfect. I mean, these floodlights or whatever, spotlights, it looks brilliant, and it does show off. I mean, having 3 submarines, on set, and mini mopes and monorails as well. Kind of like, I saw photographs of Jerry Hall. They did a fashion shoot in the. She's standing on, parts of the set. She's on one of the monorail things as well. And she's, wearing some sort of skimpy red bikini or something. But Jerry Hall, I mean, so random. Anyway, we digress again.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Where was Sean Bond keeping, the outfit, the suction cups? Was he legitimately storing in his ass or something? Like, seriously, like
very random, yeah, I mean, it's apparently as well. The ninjas who, because they were brilliant. They were, they got some proper, martial arts experts. But one thing they were scared about was actually coming down on the ropes, and the stunt guys had these I think these rubber hose, and they just clipped, when they were sliding down, they could just pinch it and it would slow them down at the end. But it looks great. I mean, again, I think that it is a really impressive, especially in 1967. It was really, really impressive use of special effects and set design. So anyway, is that one for you then?
Well, and I'm gonna close on this. One of the stunt ninjas broke their arm or leg, if I remember hearing correctly.
He landed both his ankles or something, didn't he? It's a really, I see a clip of it. It's like, crikey. Yeah, scary stuff. Anyway, you've got to suffer for your art, haven't you, Brian? You've got to suffer for your art.
Now we're moving on to Bond girls. Good old Kissy Suzuki and Anya Amasova. You want to take us away on this one, Blair?
Well, yeah. I mean, I thought that that for You Only Live Twice, they should have. I thought, that I think they're both beautiful, obviously, but I think that Mia Hamer is a bit of a damp squid. I mean, she's beautiful, but she just basically is a bikini-clad damsel. She's not really kick-ass. I think Aki's a much more effective Bond girl in You Only Live Twice. She's far more kick-ass and has more interaction and has better chemistry with Sean Connery. Obviously, before filming, neither of them spoke English. But I think Akiko, she picked it up much quicker. And Mia Hamer was going to be kicked off the production, I think, but she threatened to throw herself out of a window at the Dorchester. So the producer said, "Oh no, we'll get you back." But they swapped roles. So she was originally going to be Aki, but they swapped roles because Aki had more to say. But as I think Aki's a far more impressive agent. I mean, Calvin Dyson, I was watching a video of his, and he made a good point. He reckons that it would be better to incorporate Kissy's character and Aki into one character and have, one kind of kick-ass and have Aki as the main one, I think. But when it comes to agents, I mean, Anya Amasova is far more convincing as an agent, and she's like Bond's equal, I think. I mean, I love the way she's revealed as Triple X. It's a great twist, and she's got a great backstory. She's great in the Q scene. She knows her stuff. She's even better than Bond about, knowing that it's Sardinia, not Corsica, and the fact that Stromberg, it's not a bishop's mitre, it's Stromberg's, the symbol of the fish.
Oratory. What is that?
It's another word for chapel.
Looks a bit like a bishop's mitre.
It is a fish. That is the symbol of the Stromberg shipping line.
Carl Stromberg? But he's one of the richest men in the world.
One of the principal capitalist exploiters of the West, sir.
So it's not oratory, it's laboratory. Stromberg has a marine research laboratory. On Corsica, I believe. Well done, James.
Actually, sir, it is in Sardinia.
That's brilliant. I'm certain that two such perceptive talents will enjoy working together in Sardinia.
She's brilliant in the Lotus scene as well, the underwater scene. I mean, she's already stolen the plans for Wet Nelly, and she saves the day because she, gets the cloud and then the mine. I mean, I think it'd be better if in the train scene, the fight when she gets surprised. I think it'd be great if she could have kicked ass with Bond and they could have taken on Jaws together on the train, and also in the final bit of the film, she again is a bit of a relegation to damsel in distress mode on Atlantis. She's tied to the chair, and Bond, Roger has to go and rescue her. But for me, she still ranks as one of my favorite Bond girls in the franchise. I just find the character really intriguing. I think there's genuine chemistry between her and Roger. I think, she was great. But so I think she walks all over both Aki and Mia Harmer and Kissy. But what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Anya, and what are your thoughts on your girls?
Well, I broke it down just as Kissy and Anya on my side. I had asked a few Bond fans in the community, like, who would you rather see in this actually, Kissy, or would you rather see Aki? And I legitimately got Kissy 100%. Like, it's always Kissy. It's always Kissy, because it's whoever the Bond girl ends up with Bond at the end of the film, and especially at that time period. So I was having to really think about it, because I was like writing this. I was like, I kept on flip-flopping. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna go with Aki. I'm gonna go with, I'm like, but then people are saying no, it's legitimately Kissy, and you know what? I have to go. The community say it's Kissy, and I'm like, well, in The Spy Who Loved Me, he technically only has one Bond girl.
Sure.
But he does have the opening credits with Sue Vanner's character. But but most of the film it's Anya. But I know I'm probably gonna lose this. Kissy only appears pretty much in the last 40 minutes of the film. She is the first Bond girl to get married, though, even if it is for undercover purposes. Kissy completely hands-on, and she does get a kill for the film, thankfully. But I know she is not equivalent to Anya by any means necessary. And Anya, on the other half, is legitimately a Russian spy, which is amazing. She truly is Bond's equal. You made a great point. And we have not seen that in any Bond film to this date. There is no Bond girl that equals James Bond.
Well, I would argue potentially Wei Lin, again, and Eastern Bloc, inverted commas, communist nation spy with Pierce Brosnan. So I would say she's Bond's equal, but and also a lot of comparisons as well. I mean, it's on boats. Boats is important. It's kind of like stealth boats and attacking and trying to spark a World War III. But I think Wei Lin is could be considered Bond's equal. But for me, Anya Massova is. I mean, she along with Maud Adams, Barbara Bach and Maud Adams are my two favorite Bond girls, just for kind of allure, let's say. I don't want to be too kind of sexist, but I think they're both absolutely stunning girls. Jane Seymour maybe comes close there, but anyway, as a character, I think that she is Bond's equal, and it's great to see détente happening. And for you guys, you're a bit too young, Brian, but I mean, we grew up in the Cold War, and there was the threat that World War III could the bombs could drop. So seeing this on screen was a big moment for us.
I'm going to stop you at Wei Lin. That doesn't have any relevant to right now, because that is 1997. We are in 19 what?
77.
Thank you. How does that make sense? Like, it doesn't. I'm sorry, but it's like we had not seen a Bond girl equal at that point. Jane Seymour in Live and Let Die wasn't.
Then you got Britt Eklund. She wasn't really on up there either, was she? She was a bit hopeless.
Well, you could say, but she was a little nutty in some cases.
Yeah, totally.
She did get thrown in the back of a boot.
Well, should we crack on to the next question then?
Here's a good one for all you listeners out there. It's the villains of these two films. Blofeld versus Stromberg. I'm going to say this. I'm not a fan of Donald Pleasance Blofeld at all. I'm Team Telly Savalas all day, every day. But in this case, that doesn't really matter. If you're going to say who's the better villain out of the two, it's easily Blofeld. I think Blofeld pulls the strings of his plans very well. In his plan of world domination, he throws the Americans, the UK, and the USSR off by sending a rocket into space and swallowing other rockets from different countries. But wait a second. Didn't Stromberg do the same thing with tankers and a submarine there, Blair?
Okay, yes, the plots are obviously very similar. Stromberg's plan to start World War III and have Russia and America wipe out each other and kickstart his new world order under the sea is a bit far-fetched. I mean, his minions that he's got in the control center all seem a little blokey, don't they? I mean, where are all the women to help him repopulate the world? Or is he hoping that he can just like kind of scoop up some ladies from the nuclear wasteland? Has Stromberg actually built his underwater city yet? I mean, we see the model of his vision soon to become a reality, which sounds very much like Moonraker, doesn't it? Sounds like the Drax speech. But I don't see any kind of evidence of any subaquatic living space apart from Atlantis itself. So it might get a bit cramped. And Stromberg is a solid but not massively imposing baddie. But I mean, I love Donald Pleasance as Blofeld. I mean, he cast the mold for the evil kind of supervillain that's the template today. I mean, what I find funny is that his Blofeld's kind of used as the basis of Doctor Evil in the Austin Powers series of parodies, and then it's brought kind of full circle when Eon used the Blofeld Bond as step brothers plot device for Daniel Craig's Bond. So Pleasance, so it's kind of come full circle. They've kind of used the parody to inform the actual script for the Bond film. That's kind of weird. But Pleasance also says that Bond can watch the destruction of the US and the USSR on TV. Dare I say telly? I know you're a Savalas fan, but I understand your preference for Savalas. I mean, he's a bit more kind of like dynamic. Blofeld, he skis and he's kind of a bit more kind of like, he shoots, he goes on the toboggan, the bobsleigh. But Donald is iconic, and he's certainly better than Christoph Waltz, who comes off. I always say this. He comes a bit like Woody Allen for me. Perspective. He's like it all seems a bit kind of like he's brilliant Oscar-winning actor, obviously, but I think he's wasted in Spectre and No Time to Die. I actually served Donald Pleasance champagne at 11 o'clock in the morning once in a bar I was working at in London. Really nice guy. Just, I mean, he's just such a legend. So now I will see what the fans decide, but I mean, I can see why you think Blofeld is more, but wasn't, Blofeld originally in the script for The Spy Who Loved Me. They kind of the first drafts, he was actually going to be instead of Stromberg, it was going to be Blofeld, and then he was going to be Stavros, and then Kevin McClory sort of stepped in and said, "Well, Stavros sounds he borrowed lock, stock, and barrel from you can't use Spectre at all." And Stavros had to be changed to Stromberg because it was Ernst Stavro Blofeld and it was too close. So he was originally going to be it's going to be Blofeld in Spy Love Me. They were also going to use James Mason, I think, at one point to be the main bad guy. I think Kurt Jürgens is brilliant. I love him, but Donald Pleasance absolutely smashes it, I think. And obviously he was pulled in the last minute. I mean, they kicked off the first guy after 4 or 5 days filming because he was too kind of Santa Clausy and Christmassy, wasn't he? Not menacing enough. So they wheeled in the safe hands of Donald Pleasance, and I think he did a stand-up job and has become an icon. So I've got a hard task, kind of like trying to persuade people that Donald Pleasance as Blofeld is not better than Stromberg. But I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, you still gonna?
I think Kurt Jürgens though has the better deformity, to be frankly honest, and especially in his hands. And that doesn't make sense. Here we if we're gonna talk Blofeld, just let alone it does not make sense. The continuity or any relevance to it, and especially later on, we can maybe discuss the McClory lawsuit and get full on, like But here we see Blofeld bald in You Only Live Twice, and On Her Majesty's Secret Service was originally supposed to be shot during the time of You Only Live Twice, but there was no snow whatsoever up in the Swiss Alps, and it would have been interesting to see George, I should say, do You Only Live Twice. But it doesn't make sense. Here we see Blofeld with a scar.
Yeah. So I mean, again, yeah, sometimes Eon they kind of jump around with timelines and realities. But I mean, seeing Sean doing On Her Majesty's Secret Service would have been interesting. But I think anyway, I'm a big fan of On Her Majesty's Secret Service with Lazenby in it. So, but anyway, I mean, so we'll let's see what the fans decide downstairs down in the comments below. But for me, Donald Pleasance probably nudges it because he's only on screen for a short length of time, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think he makes such a lasting impression, and he informs all the kind of like the bad supervillains for cinema going forward. If you ask me,
Yeah. Kurt Jurgens he was in the film from start to finish, pretty much. If you really think about it, he had a great amount of screen time. Donald Pleasance, on the other hand, and he wasn't revealed until I think fully the last hour of the film, so it's like, I honestly think, I'm going to give it to Kurt Jurgens and Stromberg, to be frankly honest, but again, we're leaving it up to the fans. I know this doesn't sound much like a debate per se, but The Spy Who Loved Me really did it better in a sense too. These were two of the, like I said, one is the most controversial films of all times because fans didn't, receive, the Bond turning Japanese. That did not go over well whatsoever. The Spy Who Loved Me. It has all the right elements. People are legitimately fighting for, world domination. Bond's trying to protect England at the time. He has, every element going for him, and especially given it's his, if I remember, third Bond film.
Yeah,
Everything.
That's unlucky, isn't it? I mean, the whole thing was Sean's, and that was when they really found their feet. And but I think Roger Moore had really got into the role and was really happy and comfortable in his skin playing Bond. And but Sean Connery was obviously unhappy playing Bond. All the attention and the press intrusion and fan intrusion, the money, the salary woes he was getting. He felt he was being sort of undervalued. And halfway through production, he said, "This is going to be my last one." So it kind of comes across on screen. He does look a bit disenchanted and a bit miserable sometimes. Whereas Roger Moore is just Mr. Charisma, I think, in the film, and I think it really shows. And obviously, it showed at the box office, 185 million at the box office, but made it the biggest Bond film up to that point. So yeah, I think that really comes across on screen. So anyway,
I can tell you this right now, if Sean had, was not feeling disgruntled or anything like that, do you think he would have stayed on?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they Eon let him release because he was due to do one more film, but then said, look, we'll let you off the hook for the last film. If he'd been paid what he should have been paid and given the input, and if the fans, the Japanese fans, I think were just a bit too over the top for him. I mean, taking photographs of him going to the toilet or whatever is just a bit too much. But that was Bond mania at the time in Japan. The fans do go full on. It would have been great to see him carrying on. And I'd love to have seen him doing on Majesty's Secret Service, seeing how that would have worked out. And it might have meant that Diamonds Are Forever would have been a better film. For me, that really was. He was looking a bit out of shape and not really enjoying himself. And it was edging towards the kind of the Roger Moore kind of almost parody of Bond by that stage. So it would have been an interesting dynamic seeing how that would have played out. But for me, yeah, I'd like to have seen it, but I don't know if it would have really, yeah, translated so well. Anyway, what are your thoughts?
Well, no, I don't know. I agree. It would have been, very cool to see, Sean do on Her Majesty's Secret Service, but we would have never had George. I don't
Yeah,
think Sean could have hit the elements of the ending at all. I don't see it right now, to be frankly honest. And would we have had Diana Rigg? Probably not. We
no.
probably wouldn't have had Telly Savalas. We probably wouldn't have had Ilsa Steppen. We probably wouldn't have, I could keep on going on. Like this timeline where we are right now, where it exists, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Despite, Sean being completely out of shape for diamonds, I would have loved to seen George, do diamonds. But we all know what happened there too. So
No, no,
you can't go back.
no, quite. Absolutely.
Well, I think it's time to hit the closing part, Blair. And as always, it's been something to remember, as everybody is entitled to their own opinion. Blair, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to join me for today's episode. I look forward to having you on again soon. And remember to please cast your votes down below and your comments, and let us know who you think won. Blair, any final words?
Well, no, thanks so much for having me, Brian. It's always a pleasure chatting Bond with you, and I think we've got more we can talk about the Spy Who Loved Me and You Only Live Twice at a later date. Maybe we can do a part two. We could talk about henchmen. We've got Jaws and we've got Hans. We could do music, theme tunes, and soundtracks. Wet Nelly versus Little Nelly. The cars, Lotus versus Toyota 2000 GT. But yeah, I mean, it's always a pleasure chatting to you. Always a lot to get through, and I do ramble on a bit. So sorry, guys, watching if I do ramble on. But it's so much. There's so much to talk about, and it's so exciting, interesting, the material we've got to work with, and I do get carried away. But I really hope you enjoyed chatting, us, Brian and I chatting today. And do leave your comments down below. We'd love to hear what you think and what your favorite your favorite films are. But I'll leave the final word to you, Brian.
Yeah, and it's funny that we could really do a part two to this. Like there is more to pick up. And it's funny how when I was writing this, I was thinking, Lewis Gilbert directed 3 of them. So there is a trilogy to the Lewis Gilbert timeline. There is, of course, You Only Live Twice, The Spy Who Loved Me, and like you have mentioned, Moonraker. Moonraker is a lot similar to these 2 as well. And we would have had to bring on a, third person. But I truly, like I said earlier, these are the more similar if you really think about it. But yeah, post your comments, what you think, everything down below. Like I want to hear. I know Blair would go back and read some of them. And if you want to see a part 2, by all means, we would love to do a part 2. Unlock that true potential and clicking that like button and hitting that subscribe button. This is Brian Levesque signing off for now, but we will see you again soon.